Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tale, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, and shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now let's get into today's tale. I realized I was only ever the golden child when my wallet was open. Growing up, I thought love looked like sacrifice. Or maybe that's just what they conditioned me to believe. That being useful meant being loved. That putting others first made me a good daughter, a good sister, a good human. Turns out, being useful just made me their favorite tool. When I look back at my childhood, it's a blur of my brother Caleb being the center of every room, every conversation, and every moment. He was the star. He had that magnetic charm that made teachers forgive late assignments, cops turn a blind eye to minor infractions, and friends rally around him like he was the sun, and they were the planets orbiting around his every word. And it worked, because Caleb didn't need to try. His smile was effortless. His jokes were always the ones that made everyone laugh. He was the golden child who had it all. Meanwhile, I was the one who kept things running. I learned early on that while Caleb could do no wrong, I was the one who had to pick up the pieces. At the age of 12, I started selling friendship bracelets. It wasn't a big deal at first, just a way to make some extra cash. But it became my thing. I turned it into a small business, selling online and at local fairs. By the time I was 15, I was consulting for small startups, helping them design their branding. By the time I graduated college, I was running a full-fledged business that provided consulting services for tech companies. I thought my parents would be proud of my accomplishments. Instead, their response was, "Well, that's great, but don't forget about Caleb. He's still in school, you know." And when I say don't forget, I don't mean it as a casual reminder. I mean it as if my brother's needs were the top priority. Everything I did, all the money I made, all the progress I made, felt like it was leading to one inevitable thing: helping Caleb. When I was 23, I sold my first company for a decent amount of money. It was a moment I should have celebrated. A moment that felt like the culmination of everything I had worked for. Instead, it was followed by a conversation I'll never forget. I remember sitting at dinner with my parents, my mom already eyeing the champagne glasses in front of us as if we were celebrating someone else's achievement. And in a way, we were. It wasn't my success they were interested in. It was Caleb's. "Can you help with Caleb's tuition?" my mom asked, taking a sip of her wine without missing a beat. "He's in med school now. You know how expensive it is." I was taken aback for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. My parents, who had never made enough to give me. The things I needed when I was younger were now looking to me, the one who had built something of herself, to pay for Caleb's education. I opened my mouth to say something, but realized I didn't need to. This wasn't a question. It was a demand dressed in concern. So I did it. I paid for his first semester, then the second, then the third. There were no questions asked, no acknowledgement of the sacrifices I was making in my own life. No thank you. No recognition that I was working tirelessly to help keep his dream alive while mine took a backseat. It wasn't long before I was funding his rent, his groceries, his textbooks, and then, out of the kindness of my heart, his nights out with friends. One day, I came across an email while trying to get my finances in order. I had been managing all of Caleb's bills so I could see everything, even the ridiculous expenses he had on his credit card. There was an itemized list: resort trip to Bali, luxury dinner at the Ivy, designer backpack for the new semester. I stared at the screen for a long time, the weight of those words settling in like bricks on my chest. I called him up, hoping he'd have some kind of explanation. But Caleb, being Caleb, didn't have the decency to apologize. Instead, he gave me the same spiel he always did. "I'm working hard, Angela. I'm doing this for the future. You know how important this is to me." But I knew the truth. He was playing the system. He was playing with me. And it wasn't just the money. It wasn't just the endless sacrifices I made that were beginning to feel like chains. It was the way my parents spoke about him. The way they revered him like he was the crown jewel of the family. The way they treated me like a walking ATM. They never once acknowledged what I had done for them. It was as if my entire existence had been reduced to one simple role: pay the bills, keep the peace, and make sure Caleb's dreams didn't come crashing down. The final straw came the day Caleb graduated. My family was gathered in the auditorium, and I watched, hands folded in my lap, as my brother walked across the stage in a suit that was more expensive than the entire outfit I'd put together for the occasion. Everyone was clapping, cheering, taking photos, and I couldn't help but feel like an outsider in the celebration. That wasn't even for me. After the ceremony, I hosted a dinner at my place because my parents couldn't afford to host one. Of course, I baked the cake, grilled the burgers, and decorated the house. It was supposed to be a celebration for Caleb. And yet, it was in the backyard that I first heard him. My brother, the one I'd spent years helping, bragging to his friends. He laughed as he raised his drink. "Angela's got money. It's no big deal. She's got a lot of it. I mean, I'm a doctor now, right? I deserve to live a good life. She's just doing her part." That was the moment everything broke. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I didn't call. I didn't send a message. I didn't explain myself. I just stopped. I stopped answering his texts. I stopped sending money. I stopped enabling the narrative my parents had built, that I was the one responsible for his success. Angela had always believed that a fresh start was just a matter of time. After all, she had given so much of herself to Caleb. Paying for his medical school tuition wasn't just a financial investment. It was a gamble. A gamble she hoped would pay off in the form of gratitude, love, and respect. At first, his thankfulness was genuine. The calls, the visits, the smiles, the eagerness with which he embraced the life she had helped him build. It was overwhelming. She told herself that the sacrifice had been worth it. He had made it. He was going to be someone, and she would have a front row seat to his success. But success had a way of changing people. The more Caleb climbed, the less room there seemed to be for Angela. As he settled into his new life, the thank you notes and phone calls became fewer and farther between. He no longer needed her. And somewhere along the way, Angela stopped needing him too. The first sign that things were shifting came during one of his visits, right after he landed his first big paycheck. Angela had always known that Caleb's ambition would outpace his ability to be grateful. It was something that nagged at her in the quiet moments of reflection. "Come on, Ang, it's just a couple of things," he'd said when she questioned the sheer size of his new purchases. "I'm not saying you shouldn't treat yourself, but don't you think you're taking things a little far? A new car, designer watches, luxury vacations. You're still in your first year as a doctor." Caleb didn't seem to understand living within one's means or the importance of savings. His idea of success was a lifestyle, not a career. It was about showing off the fruits of his labor, about buying things that made him feel powerful. The house, the car, the clothes. It was all part of the performance. The tension between them started to mount. It wasn't just the money anymore. It was the subtle but unmistakable shift in Caleb's attitude. He wasn't the man who had looked up to her with gratitude. He was a man who expected her to help him maintain this lifestyle, this new version of himself. When Angela questioned him about his lavish lifestyle, his response was nothing short of dismissive. "You have no idea what it's like, Ang," he said one night, as they sat on his expensive leather sofa, the scent of newness still hanging in the air. "You've never been in my shoes. I deserve this. I deserve to enjoy life now after everything I've been through. Don't you want that for me? You owe me." Drenched in entitlement, he wasn't asking for help. He was demanding it. That night, Angela went home and stared at her phone, trying to process what had just happened. The sound of Caleb's voice, so sure and firm, echoed in her mind. She couldn't stop replaying the conversation. He had used her. She realized he had used her, not just for the tuition, but for the status he was now enjoying. Angela was no longer a sister. She had become a stepping stone, a tool in his pursuit of luxury. She needed a break. She needed to step back and reevaluate what she was doing. And more importantly, why? Days turned into weeks, and Angela felt the strain of this new dynamic. Caleb continued to press her for more money, more loans, more co-signing. He would send her texts that dripped with guilt. "You're not just my sister, Angela. You're family. You can't just let me sink. Not after everything we've been through." It felt like manipulation. It felt like guilt. At first, Angela tried to ignore it. She told herself it was just temporary. He'd figure it out. But every time the phone rang, or another message popped up on her screen, the resentment started to grow. It wasn't just the money. It was everything. It was the way Caleb took her generosity for granted. It was the way he acted as though she owed him something more than just her support. And that's when Angela began to see it clearly. Caleb wasn't just asking for help. He wasn't just asking for money. He was asking for her life. She had a choice to make, a hard choice, and she made it. One night, as Angela sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her messages, she came across one final plea from Caleb. It was a simple request for her to co-sign a loan for a luxury car. He argued that it was necessary for his professional image. Angela didn't even bother to respond. It was time. She was done. With shaking hands, Angela typed out a message to Caleb. "I can't do this." My hands trembled. I didn't know her, but I'd recognized the pattern. Caleb's abuse of power didn't start or stop with me. When I pulled the plug on him financially, I also exposed everything I discovered along the way. The NDAs, the messages, the whispered stories from women too scared to come forward. I didn't just walk away. I burned the bridge so no one else could be lured across it. But I knew the storm hadn't passed. Not yet. It began with the voicemails. Dozens of them from my mother. "Angela, you need to call us back. Caleb is in a bad place. This family is falling apart because of you. Your father isn't eating. He's so worried." And my personal favorite, "You've turned into a selfish, bitter woman. You used to be so kind, so generous. What happened to you?" I didn't answer any of them. I listened, then deleted. Each message was a tiny chip off a wall I no longer had any intention of climbing. You see, what they didn't understand was this: kindness without boundaries is martyrdom. Silence when I was drowning. Applause when I was bleeding. No more. Caleb, of course, didn't go quietly. After the car was taken, after the lease was cut off, after the money disappeared like vapor, he tried to retaliate. He filed a lawsuit, claiming I had promised him financial support indefinitely, that I had misled him into thinking he'd never have to be financially independent. Yes, a grown man, a licensed doctor, arguing in court that he was the victim because his older sister stopped bankrolling his life. The judge threw it out in 20 minutes. The evidence was stacked against him. Emails, texts, even voice messages from him gloating about how he had me wrapped around his finger. He'd never expected me to save receipts, but I had. I always had. Our parents, horrified at the scandal and unsure who to blame, turned their full wrath on me. They came to my condo, uninvited. I opened the door to find them standing there, like the ghosts of guilt trips past. My father looked like he hadn't slept. My mother had mascara smudged beneath her eyes, like someone who'd cried for all the wrong reasons. "Angela, this has gone far enough," she said, without even a hello. "Has it?" I asked, arms crossed. My father stepped in, trying the calm voice that used to make me feel safe when I was 7 and scared of thunderstorms. You made your point. But Caleb's hurting. He doesn't deserve to have his whole life ruined. I didn't flinch. And I didn't deserve to be treated like a piggy bank or a doormat or worse. My mother's mouth tightened. Family sacrifices, Angela. That's what love is. No, I said, voice flat. That's what control is. You don't get to dress up manipulation as love. Not anymore. They tried to guilt me for over an hour, asked what they had done to make me so cold, told me I was being cruel, that Caleb would always be my brother, that family was forever. I let them speak. Then I said what I should have said years ago. I am not responsible for Caleb. Not emotionally, not financially, not morally. I was a child who sacrificed her future so he could have one. You didn't step in. You encouraged it. That ends now. My mother started to cry. My father's face hardened. They left without another word. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the balcony watching the lights of the city below. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt peace. A week later, I got another letter, this time from someone named Laya. She was one of the nurses Caleb had worked with. He used to make jokes about you, said you were his personal bank with bad boundaries. We all thought you were some spoiled trust fund sister. I had no idea. I saw the news. I saw the way he treated interns, and I wanted you to know you did the right thing. Another one. Another spark. I started a blog that month. Anonymous at first. A space for people who had sacrificed everything for their family, only to be used and discarded. The messages poured in. From women, from men, from people of every background. Stories like mine, some worse. I wasn't alone, and neither were they. Months passed. Caleb, last I heard, moved in with a friend in Jersey. He was working part-time at a clinic, pending a review by the medical board. His name didn't carry the weight it once did. And the sparkle in our parents' eyes when they said his name? Gone. As for me, I finally applied to the graduate program I had shelved at 22. I took trips I used to cancel because Caleb needed the money more. I bought a piano, learned to bake, took up pottery. I used to think my life was about sacrifice. That being good meant being empty. That love was measured in how much you could lose for someone else. Not anymore. Now, I believe in boundaries, in truth, in the quiet, powerful revenge of living well. And sometimes, the greatest justice isn't seeing the people who hurt you fall. It's watching yourself rise.